So much of a gut punch. And I have to say, it was also one for Alan as well, because as much as it was a surprise, I know that, we were all dedicated to telling the story that Joss wanted to tell, right? And realizing the story that Joss wanted to tell, whatever that meant. So we were game for that. But it's very different when you read it, and it's even worse when you actually have to do it. And we didn't shoot it we didn't really shoot it chronologically, because you never do. But those last few days without Alan and Ron sucked. Just sucked. Especially when we were all gathered together, there was just never a time. We all had separate, during the course of the show, but there was a finality to it that was heart-wrenching. Yeah. That's all I'm going to say about that. Next question.
Hi.
Hi.
You have played characters in pretty varied settings and sort of worlds. And as Jessica Pearson's official hype woman, I'm very excited to see her take on Chicago next.
Thank you. Yay.
How does it compare to the other fantasy or not so fantasy worlds you've brought to life, coming in and bringing Chicago to life, both as, executive producer and the star?
Oh, thank you. I love that sound. My wardrobe in fantasy worlds is so much more comfortable than my contemporary. Not as fabulous, but yeah, those stilettos. I wish we could green screen those. I'll work on that. I gotta work on that. It's not so different, right? Because really, at the end of the day, in my mind, I'm portraying real women. Because if not, then what's the point? I need all of you and everyone that's watching to be able to plug into a being that they recognize, that they're curious about, that they're excited about, watching what the next move is. And so there has to be, they all must be rooted in reality. What's fun about moving into Jessica's new roles in Chicago is that, we plan, the plan is to be as topical as possible, to be just a little darker than the Suits world. Because certainly as executive producer, I like I said before, I want to tell stories that are current, that are important. I want to make y'all think. I want to entertain you as well, but it's important that you come away with something more. I think it's the time for it. Woo! Thank you. Next question.
So I know you've played superheroes before. I was very excited when I was watching Justice League Unlimited and then Gotham Monsters, and I heard your voice.
Thank you.
No, not Gotham, anyway. And my only disappointment with the recent Wonder Woman movie was that someone once said, who should play Wonder Woman? Gina Torres. But if you could be any superhero, Marvel, DC, Image Comics, whatever, who would you be? And actually, not even superhero. Do you want to be person on the street, shield agent?
First of all, Gal Gadot killed it. Yeah. She did. That's not easy. That's not an easy corset to step into. She killed it. So, all to Miss Goodell. And she was pregnant during like the reshoots. Okay, so I want to spend some time at the Mascara. It looks like a lovely place to hang out for a while. I mean, there was recently a massacre. That was unfortunate. Things happen. things happen. But I think I can contribute to the Mascara as an Amazon warrior.
Yeah.
Right? And I think I said at one point, I think I said in yesterday's panel, I'm happy to play like Zoe Saldana or Tessa Thompson's, like favorite auntie that actually taught them a few things along the way. Just saying. Yeah. All right, next question.
Hi, first of all, thank you so much for coming to DragonCon. We love you here.
Thank you. I've been feeling the love. You guys are amazing. Yeah.
So do you think there's a chance that Zoe was pregnant at the end of Serenity?
Yeah. About that. Absolutely.
I cosplay as Kaylee, so I want to give you a little parasol for your next step.
Thank you. She'll be right around 7 o'clock.
I'm not cosplaying as her right now.
That's all right. Thank you so much. However, in general, please go to Walk of Fame to adore Ms. Torres. All right, next question.
Real quick, as far as the kitchen still being dirty in that episode, obviously it was Jane's day to clean.
Clearly.
And I was wondering, what's it like at home, some of the conversations between you and your husband as far as the roles you've taken and portrayals you've done?
We're no longer married.
Sorry.
That's okay, spoiler alert. But I will say that we never talked shop. We so rarely talked shop when we were married, and we're still really good friends, by the way. I want to put that out there. And we have an amazing daughter, but that was sort of one of our things. Other than how was your day and how did it go, and we never ever talked character and what are you going to do with that, and no, there was time for that elsewhere. We were dedicated to just having a home life and being married, and there's always a place for the circus over there. Next question.
Hi, Gina.
Hi.
So I'm a huge fan of like bloopers and outtakes, and the character of Zoe was so put together all the time and so in control. So I wanted to ask you, what was the funniest thing that happened for you on the set of Firefly?
I guess there was one scene that we were all in, and it was late it had to have been late in the week, because when you're shooting a series, basically your days start later and end later as the week goes on. So usually by the time you get to a Friday, you're looking at going home Saturday morning. I could usually start like around 3 and then be done somewhere between 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. So I'm pretty sure it was about 3 o'clock in the morning shoot, and it was one of those impossibly long scenes, and we were all on deck. We were all in the cargo bay. And I don't even remember what exactly the scene was, but I do remember that we were all loopy. Just exhausted and loopy, and so it would not have taken much to set us off. Oh my God, I think there must be a clip of that. I think it's when the camera's panning around us and Nathan keeps showing up. Right? Yeah, so yeah, I'm positive it was that we could not recover. We were done. We were done when it came time to actually shoot the right thing. We were all so on. We'd start the scene, and I mean, I'm sure one of us wet our pants. Sean. No, Summer. But no, it was insane. I mean, nobody could, especially me. It was bad. and the crew just wants to go home. So there you go. All right, question?
Hello,
Hi.
everybody. Hello, Gina. Thank you for joining us.
You're welcome.
I have to say, you are wildly attractive and you're beautiful.
Both.
And so that's the statement. The question is,
Thank you.
with your hectic life, family, work schedule, and everything, where do you find the time to maintain, to relax, and to stay ageless?
Bless your heart. Thank you. Time is tricky. Time is a tricky thing. You just make time for the things that are important. You have to make time for your sanity. And my daughter, of course, and those relationships that are important, that feed you, that are supportive, that makes everything balanced. And balance is so very important because this isn't every day. Thank God. I mean, I love y'all, but this you can't. I mean, it's not sustainable, right? So I'm just so grateful, and I do, and I work out and I try to eat right. Although, what's a day without bacon? That's right. I'm in the South. I can say that out loud. My dinner came with ham last night. I was so happy. So good. Yes, and in genetics, my parents were gorgeous, so I have them to thank for that. Yeah, I can't even take credit for that. Thank you. All right, next question, please.
Hi, I've been a big fan of yours since Xena and Cleopatra 2525. My question is about the Suits spinoff. I know you mentioned you wanted it to be topical, but is there a storyline or an issue that you definitely feel like you need to address?
So many. So many. And not necessarily what's happening in the world or just here in our country. I mean, yes and no. I think what makes television intriguing, I think what makes any storytelling intriguing, are compelling relationships, and so when you're able to properly put forward and, portray. Thank you, it's Sunday. Sorry. And properly and realistically portray a complicated relationship. Then, and not just portray it, but find ways of staying in it. Find ways of finding common ground. Then you do a service. You do a service to everybody that's watching. I think that's one of the reasons why people love Suits. I think it's one of the reasons why people loved Firefly. We were such infinitely flawed human characters that loved each other, genuinely, deeply, found a place where we could all be together, regardless of our differences. And so that's the kind of storytelling that I want to be able to plug into week after week, and use those relationships and use those topics to conquer whatever the writers come up with. Does that make sense? All right, I feel like I was rambling there. All right, do we have another question over here? Okay, so it looks like we are back to this side. This side of the room has
There you go.
lots of
Don't be
questions.
bashful, don't be
Oh, that was
shy.
fast. So yeah, I actually have a question about some of your more recent work. I'm a pretty big fan of HBO's Westworld,
Yes.
and yeah, thank you, all two of you. All right. And you had, I guess what I'm going to call it, a cameo in it,
Mhm.
and I kind of just wanted to know, like, was there a story there? Like, did you know somebody? Did they want to put in like a well-known sci-fi actress? Like, what? Like, well, I just kind of had the moment like, oh my God, Gina Torres, Bernard's
Yeah.
wife, she's going to be in the show. No, okay.
Yeah. I felt the same way. Yeah, I did. Well, I hope you find this interesting. I think it's interesting and frustrating as hell. So this part comes up in Westworld. And I had just started seeing, they had just started releasing, no, that's a lie. I had heard that they were remaking Westworld, and I thought, well, if anybody's going to remake Westworld and do it justice, it's going to be HBO. And the cast was announced. I was like, oh, hey. Ed Harris. I crawl through broken glass for Ed Harris. Right? Oh my God. Yeah, I mean, okay, so like my favorite movie ever, like with all my favorite cowboys in the world, The Right Stuff. When men were men and sheep were afraid. But I digress. Westworld.
Ed Harris can do that to you.
Okay, so I get a call. And my agent says, we have an offer for you, which, you know, already makes my toes curl, because how often does an actor get an offer? For Westworld. I said, what? I said, yes, they're not releasing a script, because it's all super, super hush-hush, but they want you to take a look at it. And one of the head writers says that you are her dream cast for this part. And so, I mean, I didn't have to really, there was only so, they do this thing where they watermark, whatever comes to you, so that if it gets leaked, they know it's you, and it's all very hush, 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 hush. And I said, of course I'm gonna do it, absolutely. So I read it, I realize I get to work with Jeffrey Wright, brilliant actor. And I go to work. They've built the West because it's HBO, and I'm driving along. They're out in the middle of the desert. And there's a gate with a code that you gotta go through, and it's all very exciting. And I shoot my first scene, and then the show goes on hiatus for like 3 months. And I was so there's all this buildup, right? And they're like, no, it's going to be an arc. It's going to be at least 6 episodes. We want you back. Da 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 da. I'm like, okay, great. And then they go on hiatus, and they're shooting in Los Angeles. While they're on hiatus, Suits goes back into production. Ooh. And it's HBO. And they say, well, we need Gina back and Gina's on Suits. And it happened to be, during a time where my character was really, like, I was working a lot. They could not reconcile the schedules to save their, so I kind of went in and did some voiceovers and changed some things around, but they ended up having to switch it because I just wasn't available. Meanwhile, the show starts airing, and I can't say a word, and I show up. They're like, oh my God, are you gonna? Sorry, I can't say a word. And then everybody's telling me what's going on, but I'm so bitter that I won't watch the show. And everyone's got questions. And by the end of the first season, they're like, oh my God, did you know? I said, no. And quite frankly, I still don't know because I'm still too bitter to watch the show. But that's what happened. So don't tell me what happens. Although, you know, hopefully I'll forget eventually and I'll get over